Hi, Samuel Prather here, Reason user since 2003. Today, I wanted to get into a topic that is really under-emphasized in mixing and mastering. So some of you that have made tracks before have started a beat, figured out that you liked it how it sounded, but you can't get it to be loud. In particular, you can't get a kick drum or a snare drum to be loud without it completely blowing your mix. So a lot of times we get these really punchy, powerful drums, and we can't get that to come across once we get across the other side of the mixing or mastering process. Why is that? I want to get into that today, and I want to show you one really, probably the most important way that you can get around that problem. Knowing how to get around that problem requires you to understand the problem in the first place. So when we mix, what a lot of pop music is looking for is a more compressed waveform with a small crest factor. And the crest factor is the distance between the main meaty part of your waveform and the top of it. And a lot of times what blows that is drums. Drums have these really loud, short, quick attacks. Trust me, I've been there. Sometimes it can feel impossible when you're mixing in the box to get those drums to feel punchy and in your face without having them bust straight through the roof of your waveform or clipping somewhere in your chain. What if I were to tell you that there is a plugin that you can use in Reason that will make your drums not only sound bigger, but also make them quieter overall in your mix? Boom! Mind blown, right? It's not a trick, it's not a joke. It's actually a plugin that you can use, and bing, it's free. It's already sitting right there if you're using Reason 10, and it's obviously also free in Reason 11. It's called Saturation. This is a groove that I used for another video. I made some slight modifications so that it could be better used for this video. In the new Reason Drum Kits rack extension, they already put a type of saturation right there in each channel. It's called Distortion. They give you two types, and you have to toggle back and forth to see what's the best for each instrument. But if you check out now, and I'm going to push it kind of hard so it'll be obvious. All right, that obviously doesn't sound very good, but it does illustrate how big an effect it can have on the drum. Now I'm just going to hit tab, and I'm going to take that kick drum and route it to a new mix channel and call it kick drum. There's one thing that I want you to observe about this. So if you just look at the level, I'm going to turn the distortion off for a second. If you look over here in the corner, even if I hit reset, the level doesn't look like it's clipping in the channel, but clearly it is because it keeps turning the indicator red. Now I'm going to turn on distortion and let's see what happens to the level of the kick drum. Do you see that? So the drum is still punchy. It didn't lose too much of the character of the drum itself, but now it's at least 4 dB quieter than it was. It's no longer peaking in that master fader. That's a magic trick. Now I can even turn my drum up and see predictably where it would peak. Okay, so I know what you're thinking, like this is mind-blowing. I'm going to take the same approach with the snare. As we can see, the snare is peaking. Hit reset, no more peaking. All right, so let's hear what they sound like together. I backed the kick down to a more reasonable level and left the snare where it was, and now we have no clips in sight. Remember, I have done nothing as far as EQing. I did not clean this up at all, get rid of any bad frequencies. I didn't go in and notch the frequencies I want in the kick. I didn't go in and change anything in the snare. This is just raw, right out of the box, and I was able to make that much a difference in the mix just by tuning in that distortion on those drums. There's a ton of things about Reason that people often complain to me about, not knowing that there is a way to do the thing they want to be able to do already built into the program. So this Reason drum kit's rack extension already has that capability built into it, so you don't have to clutter a whole bunch of things in your mixing chain trying to put saturation in another way. Now, if you don't have Reason drum kits, you can still use saturation and it's still free. I'm going to take the distortion off the kick now. And this time I'm going to make an effect in the channel for the kick. And I'm going to add the amazing and surprisingly free soft tube saturation knob. In Reason drum kits, there are only 2 options for types of saturation, but in the soft tube, there are 3. So you can really dial in exactly the frequency you want to punch through. I would argue that this is actually the most important control that you have on mixing drums. All the other stuff has an effect, but nothing quite as drastic as the type and amount of saturation that you use. Unfortunately, there is no way to tell whether it's right or wrong, technically speaking. All you can do is dial it in with your ears to get the right amount. Whichever amount that you use, you know that saturation is going to both fatten your sound and take the edge off the volume, leaving you more headroom to mix. Obviously, there's some more tweaking and things that need to be done to make a good mix. You need to clean up and EQ out bad frequencies and pan things. You need to listen in mono so you can get a real idea of what the real volume of each instrument is, and a bunch of other things that you can do mixing wise and on the mastering side. But the better that you send it into that mixing and mastering process, the better and louder you can make it on the back end. If you like the way I explain things today, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell so that you know every time I come out with new content. Also, do you use saturation in a different way? How do you use it in your tracks? Put that down in the comments below. As always, my goal in these tutorials is to give you stuff you can use in your own production. My name is Samuel Prather. I hope I gave you a reason to create.